Watch carefully. The moment Jungkook speaks, the atmosphere subtly shifts. And surprisingly, it's not Jimin who becomes the center of attention. It's V. In several moments captured on camera, fans notice the same pattern repeating. V's expression changes not when Jimin talks, but when Jimin reacts to Jungkook. A small smile that fades too quickly, eyes that linger just a second longer than usual, a posture that stiffens, then relaxes again. These details are easy to miss if you're not looking for them, but once you see them, it becomes impossible to unsee. What makes this situation so fascinating is that the reaction doesn't appear to come from direct interaction. Jungkook isn't doing anything dramatic. Jimin isn't making bold statements. Most of the time, it's something incredibly simple. A laugh, a nod, a soft reply from Jimin that feels natural and unforced. And that's exactly where fans believe the real trigger lies. The ease, the comfort, the quiet rhythm between Jimin and Jungkook that doesn't need attention to be powerful. In multiple group settings, especially during interviews or casual behind-the-scenes moments, the camera often captures V glancing over right as Jimin turns toward Jungkook. Sometimes it's a shared joke, other times it's just eye contact. No words, no gestures meant for the audience. Yet V's reaction appears almost immediate. His expression tightens, then smooths out, as if he's aware of being watched. Fans describe it as a look that holds back more than it reveals. What stands out is that V doesn't seem uncomfortable with Jimin alone. When Jimin speaks independently, V often looks relaxed, playful, even supportive. The shift only happens when Jungkook enters the emotional space between them. When Jungkook speaks and Jimin reacts instinctively, without thinking, without performing, something changes in the energy around them. That's when fans believe V feels it the most. This has led many Jikook fans in the US to rethink the idea of jealousy in this dynamic. It's not about competition for attention. It's not about wanting Jimin for himself. Instead, fans believe it's about witnessing a bond that feels unbreakable, a connection that doesn't ask for permission, a dynamic that flows naturally no matter who else is in the room. There's a particular moment fans often bring up. Jungkook says something simple, almost throwaway. Jimin immediately reacts with laughter, leaning slightly toward him without realizing it. The interaction lasts less than 3 seconds, yet the camera cuts to V and his face tells a different story. His smile doesn't fully reach his eyes. His gaze flickers away, then back again, as if he's checking whether anyone else noticed what he just saw. Moments like this fuel endless discussions. Fans slow the footage down, they zoom in, they analyze frame by frame, and the consensus keeps circling back to the same idea. V isn't reacting to Jungkook alone, and he isn't reacting to Jimin alone. He's reacting to what exists between them. The Jikook dynamic has always been described as effortless. They don't force closeness, they don't announce it, it simply exists. Whether it's shared silence, synchronized movements, or emotional awareness, their bond feels lived in. And for someone observing from the outside, that kind of closeness can be unsettling, not because it's wrong, but because it's complete. Fans also point out how V's reactions often appear controlled. He doesn't lash out, he doesn't interrupt, he doesn't insert himself into the moment. Instead, he pulls back, he becomes quieter, his body language closes slightly, as if protecting himself from what he's witnessing. This restraint is what makes the theory feel more believable to many fans. Jealousy doesn't always explode. Sometimes it retreats inward. Another detail fans can't stop talking about is timing. V's expression often changes right after Jimin reacts to Jungkook, not during Jungkook's words themselves. That delay matters. It suggests processing, realization, as if V recognizes in real time that the connection he's seeing isn't something he can influence or interrupt. In American fan communities, especially on social media platforms and reaction channels, this pattern has become a recurring topic. Clips are shared with captions pointing out the exact second V's expression shifts. Fans don't frame it as drama. Instead, they frame it as human, emotional, relatable. Seeing someone you care about share a deep, natural bond with someone else can stir complicated feelings, even if no one does anything wrong. What adds another layer to this discussion is how Jungkook seems completely unaware of the impact he has. He remains consistent, calm, genuine. He interacts with Jimin the same way regardless of who is watching, and that consistency makes the bond feel even stronger. There's no performance, no adjustment, just comfort. Jimin, however, reacts instinctively. He doesn't check himself, he doesn't hesitate. When Jungkook speaks, Jimin listens differently. His body turns, his tone softens, his attention locks in. These micro-reactions are what fans believe make the dynamic so hard to ignore, and they're also what make V's reactions stand out in contrast. Some fans argue that V's jealousy isn't about wanting what Jikook have, but about recognizing that he can't compete with it. Not because he's lacking, but because the bond was built over years of shared experiences, trust, and emotional alignment. It's not something that can be replicated or replaced. There are also moments where V seems to catch himself reacting, a quick adjustment of posture, a forced smile, a laugh that comes half a beat late. These self-corrections suggest awareness, as if he realizes his emotions are visible and tries to regain control. That restraint is what makes the theory feel more believable to many fans. Jealousy doesn't always explode. Sometimes it retreats inward. In group conversations, when Jungkook and Jimin fall into their own rhythm, V often becomes more observant. He watches more than he speaks. His energy shifts from playful to reserved. And while this doesn't happen every time, the pattern appears often enough that fans feel confident pointing it out. The idea that the jealousy stems from the Jikook dynamic itself, rather than individual relationships, changes how fans interpret everything. It's not about rivalry, it's about witnessing a connection that feels inevitable, something that exists regardless of circumstances, something that continues even when no one is paying attention. And as fans continue to watch, rewind, and analyze, one thing becomes clear. The reactions that spark the most discussion aren't loud. They're quiet, subtle, almost hidden. But in those fleeting expressions, fans believe they see the truth. And this is where everything comes together for many fans. When you line up all these moments, the glances, the pauses, the expressions that change for just a second, a clear picture starts to form. V's reactions don't feel random. They don't feel forced for the camera. They appear most strongly when he witnesses something he can't control or interrupt. The natural flow between Jimin and Jungkook, a connection that doesn't need validation, a bond that exists quietly, confidently, and without effort. For Jikook fans, this isn't about creating conflict or assigning blame. It's about recognizing how powerful genuine chemistry can be. When two people move in sync emotionally, others around them can feel it, even if no one says a word. And that feeling, according to many fans, is what surfaces on V's face. Not resentment, but a mix of realization and restraint, the understanding that what he's seeing is real, deep, and already complete. What makes this interpretation resonate so strongly is how human it feels. Jealousy doesn't always mean wanting to take something away. Sometimes it's simply the awareness that a certain closeness exists without you. That realization can be quiet, it can be subtle, and it can show up in the smallest expressions, especially when someone is trying their best to stay composed. As fans continue to revisit these moments, the discussion keeps growing, not because of drama, but because of curiosity, because of emotion, because of the way Jimin and Jungkook's bond continues to reveal itself in the smallest, most unguarded ways, and because every reaction around them, including V's, seems to underline just how strong that bond truly is. If you've noticed these moments too, you're not alone. Fans across the US and around the world are watching the same clips, seeing the same details, and coming to similar conclusions. So now it's your turn. Rewatch those scenes. Pay attention to the timing. Look at the expressions that appear and disappear in seconds. And if you believe the Jikook dynamic speaks louder than words, make sure to support this video. Like, comment with your thoughts, and share what moments stood out to you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the details fans can't stop talking about, because sometimes the truth isn't spoken, it's shown.